The alarm screamed through the darkness. Captain Jake Morrison's eyes snapped open inside the cryopod, his lungs burning as they dragged in their first breath in 300 years. The pod hissed open, spilling him onto the cold metal floor of the USS Valiant. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest, but training overrode pain. Something was very wrong. The emergency lights bathed everything in crimson. Jake staggered to his feet, naked and shivering, reaching for the nearby locker. His hands moved on autopilot, pulling on the standard-issue jumpsuit while his mind fought through the cryo fog. The ship's computer should have woken them gently with proper medical supervision and gradual reanimation protocols. Emergency awakening meant only one thing: danger. Around him, other pods began opening. Lieutenant Amy Chen stumbled out first, her dark hair plastered to her skull with cryogel. Then came Sergeant Danny Cruz, the ship's weapons specialist, already reaching for his sidearm before his eyes fully focused. Dr. Lisa Park crawled from her pod, immediately checking the vital signs monitor on the wall. "Report," Jake croaked, his voice raw from centuries of disuse. The main screen flickered to life, and what Jake saw made his blood run cold despite the warmth slowly returning to his body. The bridge view screen showed space, but not as they had left it. Debris fields stretched in every direction. Shattered ships, some clearly human in design, others completely alien, drifted in silent testament to massive battles. And in the distance, a planet burned. "Computer status report," Jake commanded. The artificial intelligence's voice came through damaged speakers. "USS Valiant sustained critical damage during unknown engagement. Crew awakened due to imminent threat detection. Warning: multiple hostile vessels approaching. Time to intercept." 14 minutes. Amy moved to the tactical station, her fingers flying across controls she had not touched in 3 centuries. "Captain, I'm reading 6 ships. Configuration unknown. They're not in any database we have. Power signatures are off the charts." Jake felt his heart hammering against his ribs. They had left Earth as explorers, volunteers for humanity's first deep space colonization mission. The plan was simple: travel to Kepler, 442b, establish the first human settlement beyond the solar system, then wake up and start building. But they were supposed to arrive at a virgin world, not a war zone. "What happened to our escort fleet?" Danny asked, pulling on his combat armor with practiced efficiency. Lisa checked the medical logs, her face growing pale. "According to this, we've been drifting for 270 years past our scheduled arrival. The cryosystems went into emergency preservation mode after the ship was damaged. Jake, we were supposed to wake up in 2287. It's 2557. The number hit like a physical blow. Earth, their families, everyone they had ever known, gone to dust. Jake pushed the thought away. Grief was a luxury they could not afford, not with hostile ships bearing down on them. "Get me ship status now," Jake ordered. Amy's fingers danced across her console. Main engines offline. Weapon systems at 40%. Life support stable but running on backup power. We've got maybe 2 defensive railgun turrets operational and a handful of missiles. Jake were a sitting duck. The view screen changed, showing the approaching vessels in detail. They were unlike anything in human design philosophy. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures pulsing with sickly green light. As Jake watched, one of the ships fired on a piece of debris, a destroyed vessel that still bore the faded letters of human origin. The beam weapon turned metal into vapor in seconds. "They're hunting survivors," Danny said quietly. "Looking for anyone who might have escaped the battle." Jake's mind raced. 6 enemy ships, weapons they had never seen, technology centuries beyond what they had left Earth with, and a crew of just 42 souls against whatever hell had consumed the galaxy while they slept. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to pray they were not noticed. But then he looked at his crew. Amy, already calculating firing solutions despite impossible odds. Danny, checking his weapons with the calm of a man who had never backed down from a fight. Lisa, preparing the medical bay for casualties she knew were coming. Humans did not run. Humans did not hide. And they certainly did not pray. "Battle stations," Jake said, his voice steady and cold as the void outside. "Let's show these things why Earth stopped sending colony ships. Amy, charge whatever weapons we have left. Danny, get the Marines armed and ready for boarding action. Lisa, prep for casualties." He settled into the captain's chair, fingers gripping the armrests. "They want to finish what they started 300 years ago," Jake continued, watching the enemy ships grow larger on screen. "Let's remind them why that was a mistake." Target the lead ship. All weapons. When I give the word, we hit them with everything we have. The crew moved with desperate purpose. Outside, the alien vessels closed in, confident in their prey. They had hunted these ghost ships for centuries, mopping up the last remnants of the great human expansion, just another piece of debris to eliminate. They had no idea what they had just awakened. The galaxy had lived in fear for 300 years, cowering before the Kryllian dominion and their endless hunger for conquest. Every species had fallen or submitted. The humans had been destroyed, their colonies burned, their fleets shattered, but the Kryllians had made one critical mistake. They had not found all the colony ships. They had not killed every human. And now, in the dark between stars, those humans were waking up. Jake watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment. The lead Kryllian ship moved into range, its weapons charging for what should have been an easy kill. He could see it now. The pattern, the arrogance in their approach. They thought this was cleanup duty. Fire, Jake said. The USS Valiant unleashed hell. Railgun rounds, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, tore through space. The missiles followed, their primitive chemical engines no match for modern technology, but their payload still deadly. The Kryllian ship's shields flared, absorbing the impact. But Jake saw the flicker, the momentary weakness. Again, he commanded. Everything we have. The ship shuddered as the last weapons fired. The Kryllian vessel's shields collapsed, and a railgun round punched through its hull. Atmosphere vented in a frozen cloud. The alien ship began to list, its elegant curves now a liability as secondary explosions rippled along its length. The other 5 ships broke formation, their weapons ports glowing with charging energy. The view screen went white as multiple beams converged on the Valiant's position. Shields that were never meant to face such weapons held for 3 seconds before failing catastrophically. Jake felt the deck buck beneath him as the ship took direct hits. Alarm shrieked. Fires erupted in the aft sections, but they were still alive, still fighting. Hull breach on decks 4 and 5, Amy reported, her voice strained but steady. Sealing bulkheads. Shields gone. Weapons depleted. Danny's voice came over the comm from the armory. Captain, we've got nothing left to shoot. What are your orders? Jake looked at the tactical display. 4 Kryllian ships remained operational, closing in for the kill. The Valiant had no weapons, no shields, and no way to run. By every logical measure, they were dead. But Jake was not thinking logically. He was thinking like a human. Computer, he said calmly. Plot a ramming course. Target the nearest enemy vessel. Full emergency-powered engines. The bridge went silent. Amy turned to look at him, understanding dawning in her eyes. Lisa stopped her damage assessment. Even the computer seemed to hesitate before responding. Acknowledged. Warning. Collision will result in total destruction of both vessels. Crew survival probability, 0.03%. I can live with those odds, Jake said. Execute. The Valiant's damaged engines roared to life, every safety protocol overridden, every power system redirected to the single purpose of acceleration. The colony ship, never meant for combat, never designed to be a weapon, became a missile. The Kryllians saw the maneuver too late. Their ships scattered, but the lead vessel could not turn fast enough. Jake watched it grow on the view screen, filling his vision. And for the first time in 300 years, he smiled. For Earth, he whispered. The impact tore both ships apart. The Valiant's nose crumpled like paper, driving deep into the alien hull. Metal screamed. Reactors detonated. The shockwave expanded outward, catching a second Kryllian ship and sending it spinning into the debris field. In the last seconds before the Valiant died, Jake's final thought was simple and clear. We're not done yet. Across the galaxy, in the cold dark between stars, 217 other colony ships drifted. Each carried hundreds of humans in cryosleep. Each held people who had left Earth looking for hope, for a new beginning, for a chance to spread humanity among the stars. Each ship's computer registered the Valiant's final transmission, a simple emergency broadcast scattered across every frequency. 3 words that would change everything. They killed us. One by one, the ships began to wake their crews. The Kryllian Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had crushed species that had mastered technologies beyond human comprehension. They had built an empire that stretched across 3 galactic arms, and they had done it all through overwhelming force and absolute ruthlessness. They had destroyed humanity's first wave of expansion without mercy. hunting down every colony ship, every settlement, every last human they could find. It had been methodical, efficient, and nearly perfect. Nearly. Commander Zekthar stood on the bridge of the Dominion warship Endless Hunger, reviewing the report from the scouting party that had just returned. 6 ships sent to investigate a debris field. Only 3 returned. The others destroyed by a single primitive human vessel that should have been dead for centuries. Impossible, Zekthar muttered, his mandibles clicking in agitation. The humans were eliminated. We destroyed their homeworld 290 years ago. We hunted down every last ship. They are extinct. His tactical officer, a scarred veteran of 100 campaigns, looked up from his console. Commander, we are receiving similar reports from 17 other sectors. Human ships, awakening from cryosleep. They are scattered across the outer spiral arm. At least 50 confirmed active vessels, possibly more. Zekthar felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear, not of the humans themselves. They were primitives with outdated technology and no chance of victory. No, the fear came from something else. From the message his sensors had intercepted, repeating on every human frequency, growing stronger as more ships awakened. They killed us. Wake up. Remember. Make them pay. Issue a general alert. Zekthar commanded. All fleets are to begin systematic sweeps of the outer territories. Find these human ships and destroy them before they can coordinate. I want every vessel accounted for and eliminated within the month. The tactical officer hesitated. Commander, our forces are spread thin. The Vrelian rebellion in the Beta Quadrant requires 3 battle groups. The resource extraction operations on the Rim need protection from raiders. We cannot pull ships without weakening our position. Then do it anyway, Zekthar snapped. These humans are a cancer. We cut it out before. We will cut it out again. They have no homeworld, no support infrastructure, no manufacturing capability. They are refugees on dying ships. This will be a simple mopping-up operation. But even as he gave the order, Zekthar pulled up the sensor logs from the Valiant's destruction. He watched the damaged colony ship accelerate, watched it ram the Krillian cruiser without hesitation, watched the captain drive his ship directly into the enemy knowing it meant certain death. That was not the behavior of refugees. That was not the behavior of a defeated species. That was the behavior of something that would rather die than surrender. Zekthar dismissed the thought. Courage without power was meaningless. The humans would learn that lesson again, just as they had 300 years ago. The Empire had crushed them once. It would do so again. He turned away from the view screen, already planning the deployment of hunting groups. He did not see the small notation on the edge of the sensor log, a detail so minor that the computer had flagged it for deletion as irrelevant. Before the Valiant rammed the Krillian ship in the last seconds of the battle, the colony ship had ejected 70% of its cryopods. But, 2 crew members had died with their ship? 46. 358 colonists were still asleep, now scattered across the debris field in emergency pods with basic life support and distress beacons, waiting for rescue, waiting to wake up angry. Lieutenant Ben Parker's eyes opened to the sound of hydraulics. His cryopod was opening, but something felt wrong. The gentle deceleration protocols were absent, the warm-up cycle incomplete. His body felt like it was made of broken glass and frozen meat. He fell more than stepped out of the pod, landing hard on unfamiliar metal. Not the carpeted deck of the Valiant, not the sterile white of the medical bay. This was rough, industrial, and alien. Easy there, Sleeping Beauty, a voice said. Female, with an accent he could not place. You've been out a while. Take it slow. Ben's vision cleared, revealing a woman in a patchwork pressure suit, her face covered with old scars and newer burn marks. Behind her, a dozen other humans worked on equipment in what looked like a makeshift workshop carved out of an asteroid. Where am I? Ben managed to croak. Sanctuary Station, or what's left of it, the woman replied. I'm Captain Nicole Grant, commander of the resistance cell in this sector. We picked up your pod's distress signal and hauled you in. You're the 5th survivor we've recovered from the Valiant. Ben's mind spun. Resistance cell. Sanctuary Station. None of this made sense. The Valiant, Captain Morrison dead, McCole said bluntly, took a Krillian cruiser with him, from what we can tell. Hell of a way to go out. Your ship's final transmission woke up half the sleeping colony fleet. The Krillians are losing their minds trying to hunt everyone down. She helped Ben to his feet, guiding him to a bench. But that's a conversation for when you can stand without shaking. Right now, you need to understand 3 things. 1. Earth is gone. The Krillians glassed it 290 years ago. 2. Humanity is scattered, broken, and hunted. We're the last of the last, hiding in the dark corners the Empire hasn't bothered to sweep yet. Nicole paused, and when she spoke again, there was something fierce and bright in her eyes. And 3. We're done hiding. Your captain's sacrifice reminded the galaxy of something important. Humans don't need to win. We just need to make victory cost too much. Every ship they send to hunt us is a ship they can't use elsewhere. Every resource they spend tracking us down is a resource they don't have for their empire. We're going to be the knife in the dark, the thorn in their side, the wound that never heals. Ben looked around the station. He saw people working with desperate efficiency, salvaging technology, repairing weapons, planning. These were not soldiers. They were teachers, engineers, farmers, people who had signed up for colony life, for peaceful exploration. Now they were preparing for war. How many of us are left? Ben asked. Nicole's expression grew grim. Hard to say. The Krillians killed billions during the initial invasion. The colony ships that made it out. We've confirmed about 80 active vessels now, maybe 200,000 people total, if all the cryopods are still functional. Against an empire of trillions, not exactly good odds. What about allies? Other species the Krillians have conquered? Most are too broken to fight. The ones that aren't are too scared. The Krillians have been the dominant power for over 500 years. They've perfected the art of keeping subjects weak and divided. Nicole handed Ben a ration pack in a canteen. But there's something the Krillians don't understand. Something no one in this galaxy seems to grasp. What's that? Humans have been the underdog before. Back on Earth, we spent thousands of years fighting each other, surviving ice ages, plagues, extinction events. We climbed out of the caves with nothing but sharp rocks and bad attitudes. We split the atom. We walked on the moon. We reached the stars. And we did it all while dealing with our own stupidity and infighting. Nicole's smile was cold and sharp. These Krillians think they're apex predators. They think their empire makes them invincible. They've never faced a species that weaponizes spite. They've never encountered beings who will burn down the world just to take their enemies with them. They killed our planet, murdered our people, and thought that would be the end of it. She stood, pulling Ben to his feet. They were wrong. Come on, there's someone you need to meet. Another valiant survivor. Goes by the name of Katie Walsh. She's been working on something interesting. Nicole led him through the station's cramped corridors. Everywhere Ben looked, he saw evidence of desperate ingenuity. Salvaged Krillian technology integrated with human designs, weapons cobbled together from mining equipment, ships modified for stealth and speed over raw power. They stopped at a workshop where a young woman was elbow-deep in what looked like a Krillian reactor core. Katie Walsh looked up, her face smudged with grease, her eyes bright with manic energy. Is this the new one? Katie asked. Good. I need another pair of hands. Lieutenant, what do you know about quantum entanglement? Ben blinked. Basic theory. It was still experimental when we left Earth. Why? Katie's grin was slightly unhinged. Because the Krillians use it for instant communication across their empire. Every ship, every station, every major installation has quantum comm arrays. And here's the beautiful part. They never bothered encrypting the system properly because they've never faced an enemy smart enough to hack it. Understanding dawned on Ben's face. You're going to listen in on their communications. Better than that, Katie said, her grin widening. I'm going to feed them false information. Fake fleet movements. Phantom human attacks. Supply chain disruptions that don't exist. I'm going to make them jump at shadows and waste resources chasing ghosts. And when they finally realize they've been had, you'll already be doing something worse, Ben finished. Now you're getting it, Katie said. Welcome to the Resistance, Lieutenant. We might not have the ships or the soldiers or the technology to fight the Krillian Empire head-on, but we have something better. We have creativity, desperation, absolutely nothing left to lose. Nicole nodded in approval. The Krillians are about to learn what happens when you corner a predator and take away its pack. They're about to discover why Earth conquered itself 6 times over before we ever left the cradle. They're about to understand that killing 99% of humanity just means the last 1% is the meanest, toughest, most stubborn collection of survivors the universe has ever seen. Ben felt something ignite in his chest. It was not hope. Hope was for people who still believed in happy endings. This was something darker and more powerful. This was rage, channeled and focused. This was the burning need to make the enemy pay for every drop of human blood spilled. "What do you need me to do?" Ben asked. Nicole and Katie exchanged glances, and then Nicole spoke. "Right now, we need to get you up to speed on everything that's happened. Then we need to figure out your skills and where you fit in the operation. But most importantly, we need you to understand the plan." "The plan? We can't beat the Krillians in a straight fight," Nicole explained. "We don't have the numbers or the firepower, but we can make them bleed. We can make every system they control a potential threat. We can turn their empire into a paranoid, resource-draining nightmare. And while they're busy hunting us down, we find their weaknesses," Katie interjected. "Every empire has them. Logistics, politics, infrastructure vulnerabilities. The bigger you are, the more ways you can break. We just need to find the right pressure points." Ben nodded slowly. "It was a long shot, a desperate gamble by desperate people. But it was better than dying quietly in the dark. Better than letting the Krillians win without a fight." "One more thing," Nicole said, her voice dropping to something harder. "You need to understand what you're signing up for. This is not glorious. This is not heroic. We're going to do things that would make the old Earth nations call us terrorists. We're going to hit soft targets, destroy infrastructure, kill whoever gets in the way. We're going to be the monsters the Krillians think we are." She looked him dead in the eyes. "Can you live with that?" Ben thought about Earth, gone to ash, about the billions of humans murdered, about Captain Morrison, driving his ship into the enemy knowing it meant death, about the galaxy that had moved on, that had forgotten humanity even existed. "Yeah," Ben said quietly. "I can live with that." "Good," Nicole replied, "because we're going to need every warm body we can get. The other colony ships are out there, waking up, realizing what happened. Some will try to run, find a quiet corner of the galaxy and hide. Some will probably just give up. But the ones who want to fight, the ones who want payback, we're going to give them a war," Katie finished. "A long, bloody, expensive war that the Krillians will regret ever starting. It might take decades. It might take centuries. We might all die before seeing the end. But we're going to make them remember why they should have made sure humanity was completely extinct before they stopped looking." The three of them stood in the workshop, surrounded by salvage technology and desperate plans. Outside, the galaxy continued its slow rotation, unaware that in the depths of a forgotten station humanity was making a choice. Not surrender, not acceptance, not quiet extinction, war. Ben straightened, feeling the weight settle on his shoulders. "When do we start?" Nicole checked her datapad. "There's a Krillian supply convoy passing through the Helios Drift in 6 days, lightly guarded, carrying food and medical supplies for one of their frontier colonies. We hit it, take what we can use, destroy the rest. Send a message." "What message?" Ben asked. Katie's smile was sharp enough to cut. "That the galaxy lived in fear for 300 years, but now humanity's awake, and we remember everything. Every death. Every destroyed world, every murdered child." Nicole moved to a wall panel, pulling up a star chart. Red markers indicated Krillian-controlled space. It covered most of the visible galaxy. Tiny blue dots showed suspected human ship locations. They were barely visible against the red tide. "We're outgunned, outnumbered, and outmatched," Nicole said. "By every logical measure, we should surrender or run. But humans have never been very logical. We're the species that looked at fire and said, let's make friends with that. We're the species that saw the ocean and built boats. We're the species that reached the moon because we were curious and stubborn." She turned to face them, and in her eyes Ben saw the same thing he felt burning in his own chest. The Krillians made a mistake. They should have killed every last one of us. They should have scoured the galaxy clean of humanity. They should have made absolutely certain we were extinct. But they didn't. They got lazy. They got complacent. They assumed we were beaten. Now, Nicole continued, they're going to learn the hardest lesson in the universe. You can kill a human. You can kill 1,000,000 humans. You can glass their homeworld and scatter their people to the stars. But if you leave even one human alive, even one person who remembers what was taken from them. Katie finished the thought, her voice cold and certain. You haven't won. You've just made an enemy who will spend every remaining breath making you pay. Ben looked at the star chart, at the impossible odds, at the tiny blue dots against the Red Empire, and he started to plan. Started to think like a guerrilla fighter instead of a colonist. Started to become the thing the galaxy would learn to fear. Because the Krillians had killed billions. But billions minus one meant someone was still alive, still angry, still capable of making them regret it. The galaxy had lived in fear for 300 years. Now it was the Krillians' turn,